scrappy people, Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with fall. I don't know about you, I'm done with summer. So we're moving on to fall with Cocoa Daisy's new Cozy Season collection. This is the October collection. Unfortunately, it is all sold out, but you can get on the wait list if any open up. Of course, it is not fall yet, so I'm reaching back to 2018, I believe, when I was cute. Back when I thought of myself as a little fashionista, and I am going to scrapbook one of the outfits that I had picked out or curated or whatever for fall at that time with this beautiful orange suede jacket, and it matches this collection real nicely. So I think what I want to do is create a bunch of tags out of the papers in this collection. I'm going to make them 3.5 by 6. Eventually I am going to make them 3 by 6 because the 3.5 was just a little bit too wide. The tags looked a little bit wonky, but I'm going to cut a bunch of these papers out, and so I can use the front and the back sides, and then I'm just going to snip the corner off of it, use the corner as a guide for the other corner, and then I will punch the hole in the middle. And once I have one full tag made, which I should have made it 3 inches while I was doing this because I had already decided that it was too wide, but once I have one tag made, then I use it as a guide for the rest of my tags. And now you can see me cutting off 1/4 of an inch on each side to make them 3-inch tags. I think I even cut them down to 5 3/4 too, because the top of the tag was a little bit weirdly narrow. So I just went ahead and trimmed everything down. So now they are 3 inches by 5 3/4 inches, and I'm going to use them as the patterned paper for the top of this page. Now I'm not going to use all of them. I will save some for later, but I'm going to use, I think, 5 of them, maybe even 6 of them. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to decide which sides go together, where things will read best. I'm not loving that chevron paper, I'm thinking, with this composition. I really love that navy blue. There's not a lot of navy blue in this collection, but I think it brings out the darkness of my gray boots pretty well. So I'm wanting to leave that in, but I don't think it's reading. I don't think that chevron is reading very well on the page itself. I decided to go ahead and use this paper as sort of a base for the whole composition because I felt like everything was kind of floating in space since the tags did not fully extend below the photos. So I'm just going to slide this underneath all of the tags, and it's going to create a nice grounding line for the photos themselves. And now I'm going to go ahead and rough up the edges just a little bit of each of these tags. I'm not going to make them super distressed, but just give them a little bit of texture. And then the back side of that chevron was this beautiful sort of misty leaf pattern. It's like a full scene on the actual paper, but I loved that blue at the top of the tag, which is basically all you're going to see. And I think it brings in the blue of the navy a little bit. So I lucked out a bit with that once I flipped the tag over. Now I'm going to go ahead and put down all my photos, and I stick them to each other. I want them to be a little bit wonky, not all the same height, not in a straight line. So we're going a little bit wonky with them. And also that makes it so that they don't completely span the page. They are all 3 by 5s. So if I just, laid them out next to each other, they would completely span the page and you wouldn't see the edges of those tags. And I didn't want them to go all the way to the edges of the page. So this worked out well. I'm gonna put them down all as a big block. Then I'm going to start going through the embellishments in this collection and deciding what I want to embellish with. But I see all of these tags or corners of the tags that I cut off, and so I thought maybe they would work for a bunch of photo corners across the page, which they do. I really like the way that it looks, except I felt like once I got all of the corners down that there were too many. Like it felt repetitive with all 4 having photo corners. So I decided to just do 2 instead after hemming and hawing for a while. I decided to just do 2 instead and just emphasize the inside and the outside of these photos just slightly. Just give them a little bit of framing. You can see I'm just trying to make it work, but all 4 is not going to work. So here I'm going to decide, nope, we're just going with 2. There we go, just 2. All right, now I can start pulling out the embellishments. And I'll be honest, when I first pulled out the embellishments in this collection, I didn't actually know what to use. I felt like there was already so much going on in this collection. And since it wasn't like a really super fallish scene, like there's no pumpkins, or there's leaves, I can definitely use all of the leaves, but there's like no pumpkins or anything like that for me to really play with. I was a little bit lost at first. There's some great ephemera here, lots of vintage looking tags that I can use to start layering. And then I decided to use the boots, because when am I ever going to be able to use the boots again? I thought that this was perfect for those. So I'm going to use these die cut leaves and that vellum leaf that says painted in the colors of fall, which I thought was appropriate. And then some ephemera and those boots. And I'm going to start my composition off that way. I'm going to stick them somewhere. Somewhere I'll know where to put them. Maybe? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Now I'm looking at the chipboard, and there's a couple of things on the chipboard that I might use. The rub-ons, not so much, just because of the composition of the layout. And I do love this washi tape, so I'm definitely going to pull that in. And those puffy stickers as well. Goodbye, washi. Those puffy stickers as well, but those are going to be last. So this is kind of where I was like, well, what am I going to do? Because I'm kind of out of embellishments, as if I'm not going to use the rub-ons, if I only have a couple of chipboard pieces. What can I do here? So I start sticking things down. Always the best choice, I think, when you have no idea where you're going, is just indiscriminately stick sticky things down that you can't change later. It's always a fabulous idea, which is what I always do. It worked out fine in this instance, but man, it's like I have to commit to what I've already decided before I can decide more things. It's quite silly, but it is how I work, I think. So I'm going to stick this pair of boots under here. I don't want to cover them up. Like, I don't want the soles to be covered, but I don't want them on top of that photo corner. And then, of course, see? Look, now they're all stuck together. Oh, Tracy. Okay, there we go. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it's a little crooked. We'll leave it because it's stuck and I don't want to deal with it. I don't know about you, but I always have a hard time peeling off the sticky backings on these. My thumbnails, I am a serial nail biter. It is one of my neurodivergent tics, and so I never have nails. So it's always impossible for me to get the backings off of these Cocoa Daisy, what are they called? Sticky die cuts? Because, so I put that leaf down, and now I'm like, well, I can't put the photo corner back there, so maybe I can put it here instead. Okay, but now this one needs to be both on one side too. And now I have something sticky right there, so now what? Let's pull the boots all the way to the top, since now I don't have that photo corner to fight with. All right, let's figure this out. I'm going to add in some of the chipboard that I think will work. And then I decide that the best way to, not save this, but the best way to proceed with this layout is to give it a big title. So let's do this changes in the air, but not here, right there. And then this can go here, and it'll be held down by the chipboard, although I do staple it later because the painted part was like coming up away from the layout. And I always forget, now that I'm doing 12 by 12s again, that they're going to go back in page protectors. My Life Crafted pages don't generally go in page protectors, so I always forget that it doesn't quite matter if it's not stuck down in one place because it's going to go in the page protector, but that was my thought process. Got to get in this washi tape, and I'm going to put it on this top one, and then I wanted to put it on the other one that didn't have photo corners, but there was really no place to put it on that one, so it's going to end up going at the bottom of this outside photo, which I'm a big fan of repetition, or symmetry. And so the symmetry of having it on the two photos that didn't have photo corners made sense to me, but the symmetry of having it on both outside photos makes sense to me too. So it worked. It didn't break my brain. So I'm going to get out this brown alphabet and I'm going to start my title, and it says Fall in Love With. And then I'm going to use my, I'm going to have to move this all up though to add more to the title, but I'm going to use my silhouette and some of the white cardstock that comes in the scrapbook kit, and I'm going to make the rest of my title, and I'm going to ink that, or I'm going to ink it up. So I'm going to cut out the word yourself. Oh, but first, well, let me string these tags. So, okay. I decided that before I left the scene of the crime here that I wanted to work on as much as possible. So I added some, not burlap, twine from my stash, and I'm adding some loop-de-loop stringing of these tags. Rather than tie a bunch of individual bows, I'm going to string them all together and then tie bows on the end, which takes me a minute because I do this part wrong first. Sigh. Well, that's a weird bow. That's not going to work for me. So let's untie it and start over. Still not going to work because I need to restring the whole. Ugh. There we go. Restring the whole so that the loop goes in the front. There we go. Much better. I'm going to go ahead and staple it down so that everything stays still. And I'm going to staple some of these loop-de-loops down too since they're flying away from the page. Then I'm going to repeat the process on this side, and it's going to go much smoother because I restring it from the get. Beautiful. I'm going to staple it down, trim the string. Okay, now that all that is done, now I can add the rest of my title because I can escape to my computer to just create yourself in a font. I made sure that it was going to fit. It's like 6 inches wide, 2 inches tall. And I'm going to take this Mandarin Spice ink from Catherine Pooler. And I'm not going to perfectly ink it because I want it to be a little bit mottled. But the orange matches my jacket better to the collection. There's not, for a October collection, there's not a lot of orange. So I wanted to bring in a little bit of orange so that my jacket would match a little bit better. And now I can nest yourself in with the letters, and they're going to have to move a little bit because of the way that that Y ascender sticks up in the middle of in love. So I'm going to glue it down, and then I will peel up the letter stickers so that they go around the ascenders of the word. So here we go, put that down. Now rearrange all these letters. Fall in love with yourself. Now that's not the end of the title, so I cut out some lines that say first. So it says fall in love with yourself first, and then everything else will fall into line. So then I pulled out the stamps, which has these beautiful paint strokes, and I'm going to bring in some yellow from Catherine Pooler, and I'm going to make it look like it's highlighted. So the first stamp I put down, and then I rotate the stamp around 180 degrees so that it's not exact, trying not to overlap the original stamping too much so it doesn't get like that double inked effect. Then I trimmed it down, and now I have this beautiful highlighted word bit that kind of finishes off the whole sentiment. So fall in love with yourself first, and then everything else will fall into line. I'm going to mount it on this leaf paper that I trimmed down to be just slightly larger than the sentiment. And then I'm going to take my smallest circle punch, and I am going to punch the edges so that it turns into sort of a book plate style sentiment instead of just a straight edged rectangle. Beautiful. And it's going to nest perfectly right under yourself. All right, so I'm loving the way this is coming together. I'm feeling like it's not quite feeling done to me. So I'm going to add some really soft stamping on this brown paper. I chose a light brown ink to stamp these leaves, and it's very subtle, which is what I was going for. It just adds a little bit more texture to the title without it being glaringly obvious. If I had chosen a little bit darker, it probably would have stood out a little bit more, and that would have been fine too. But the look I was going for was really subtle. So I have one down. Now I have to fix that because I moved a little bit. Stick them all down on one block so that they stick the way I wanted them to, or they stamp the way that I wanted them to. Then I'm going to do a couple more up here just to make sure that there's a little bit of symmetry, continuity, I should say. All right. Then one more stamp that you end up not even really being able to read, sadly, but that's okay. Oh well. All right, so I'm gonna add the date, and I have to really like mess with this date stamp because it starts in like 2022. So I took that part out because it was a lot of leaning over, but I ended up making it say 2018. Now I'm adding these leaves like they're floating around the page, and this page is just about done. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. There's a link to Cocoa Daisy in the description box below if you want to get on the waiting list for this collection or sign up for a future subscription. And I will see you next time. Thank you.